colleague, Dr. Teodoro Mendoza. Oh, hindi sir. It's our pleasure to have him today. It's actually not so easy to invite faculty, especially our own, to speak. And I'm so glad Dr. Mendoza heeded my special request to talk on the topic. So, he finished his bachelor's and his master's here at UPLB and did his PhD at the University of Florida, Gainesville. He has a mix of many disciplines, combining soil science, botany, agronomy, statistics, and it shows in his plant breeding, and it shows in his career, on how he integrated these different disciplines and come up with numerous papers, doing research, doing advocacy. At isa nga sa narinig kong at napag-usapan namin briefly sa hallway isang linggo, sabi niya ilang ba, 300 professor daw meron dito, pero daw bang pinoprofess. So tingin ko isa sa mga taong malakas mag-profess. So he's also very active in fighting for the rights of the faculty, in being active at the All Academic Employers Union. So as faculty representative, as head, and is one of those who's also able to practice what he teaches, and started advocacy more along sustainable agriculture and doing organic production with his family and himself. So, iba yung nagtuturo at saka yung practice yung ginagawa. So, I'm excited to hear from him. I haven't really attended his classes before, but I do hear strong words from his students on how they impacted their minds with doing thoughts. So, it's a pleasure to introduce to you the full professor, one of the few in our department who has the rank, Dr. Teodoro Mendoza.
Yeah. Salamat, Ami. Yes, it's also very difficult to refuse an invitation coming from a junior colleague, and it's also very difficult decision for me not to take the opportunity, especially if what she is asking is directly aligned with what we're doing. So, yeah, I saw some faces around now. So, I always would like to provide scientific basis, solid data on what we are professing, what we are trying to do. So again, as I said, it's so difficult to refuse given this opportunity. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, I have already emailed this PowerPoint presentation to the crop science cluster so that those who are not around may still have the data. They will find the presentation later on. Just spread around that it is there already. It's in your inbox already. Okay. So the topic, oil price. Ganito po ang brief discussion natin. Background on oil prices and food, their relationships, and ultimately, ano dapat gawin, what must be done in the form of conclusion or recommendation. Okay, as you would see here, this is taken from the U.S. Energy Information Administration and FAO, the food price index and the price of oil. They are highly correlated. And John Bobs and Alan Dennis did a study on the long-term drivers of food prices, and they have concluded more than 50% of food price increase from 1997 to 2015, 2012 are accounted for oil prices. So, ang title na kasi ng aking seminar is oil price. How is it influencing our food? So, ito ang malaking challenge, or you might call it a problem, because there are about 2 billion people who have less than $1 a day budget. How will they afford any food price increase? Why are oil prices increasing? There are so many reasons. Speculative investment in commodities. You know, when speculators come in, they can manipulate the prices. The other reason, exploration and production are becoming more costly. Okay? And no less than Jared Gilbert, a petroleum engineer, who said that the current oil fields we are chasing, we've known about for a long time. These difficult fields are all that we have left. So wala nang bago halos, nadidiscovery. Then someone did an analysis on the energy balance. What is EROI? That is energy return per energy input. Okay? So before, it's about 100 units. So you invest 1 unit of energy, you get back about 100 units. Now it's only ranging from 20 to 30 units. And if you process what we call tar sands sa Canada, the ROI is only 2.5. Later on, we'll discuss ano ba itong fracking technology or shale oil of US. No one has done yet an energy balance for the fracking oil, frack oil in the United States. And what is the energy balance? Access to new prospective region is generating increasing geopolitical tensions. Ang maghanap ng oil ngayon hindi na libre. In fact, it's in our doorstep. We have this problem with China. Why China is encroaching too much on our supposed to be lands? It's simply because of oil. More than that, no. The more conservative International Energy Agency (IEA) has already accepted that oil production reached its peak, including IMF, International Monetary Fund, has accepted that scarcity and high prices are here to stay because of this situation. Okay. This is from the PowerPoint of Dr. Kelvin Rodolfo. Pamahal ng pamahal ang halaga ng langis kada bariles. So 2006 it was $63, but by January 2008, how much it was at the time? Umabot po siya ng up to 130. Tapos umabot pa siya ng hanggang 140. Okay? But you know, there are always people who can perceive the situation. As early as 1956, King Hubert, King Hubert, has predicted peak oil to happen already. So that was in 1956. It happened, production peak happened in the United States in the early 70s. That's why we have the oil crisis in the 1972. Biglang tumaas din ang langis at that time. And as I've said, King Hubert was able to predict that earlier, 14 years before, or almost 2 decades. So, peak oil. So what happened with peak oil? Oh, there will be search for other sources. So ano ang naging trajectory? By the way, this is the price of gasoline in June 2008. It was a banner headline that time. PDI, Philippine Daily Inquirer, naging $140 per barrel pala tayo nun. What will be the price of gasoline if the price will become $200 per barrel? It will be 87 pesos per liter and 80 pesos per liter diesel at $200. Now the price of diesel ay 29 pesos. So, so I was saying, as oil price increase, there will be search for replacement that will intensify for motor vehicles or combustion engines. Ano ang naging smart move nila? Buy fuels for cars. But this but biofuel are made from our crops. Okay? So, bakit nagkaroon ng ganon? Because of bakit nagkaroon ng biofuel mania? Because of overutilization, it's led to what? Increased shortage. What about utilization of oil? Okay? Over 1.5 trillion barrels of oil had been consumed since Edwin Drake drilled the first oil well in 1859. And the remaining 1.5 trillion at the current rate of utilization of 85 million barrels per day, or about 30 billion barrels per year, will be consumed in about 40 years. Galing nang mag-consume ng humanity, no? Humanity consumes in 1 year what Earth stored in 9 million years. So this is the data of Teodoro. So, in relation to biofuel, ano ang research ni na Mitchell? More than 70% of food price increases were due to biofuel. 33% of increase in U.S. maize price from 2007 to 2008 was due to U.S. bioethanol production. They're using about 100 million tons. I think by this time, about 120 million tons. If you compute the carbohydrate or calorie equivalent of this 100 million tons of corn, they will feed 1 billion people already. In China, they are also joining the biofuel, where 3.5 to 4% of their total rice production is now being used for biofuel production. Okay? So, at that time, they assessed that 100 million tons of corn is propelling the 53 million tons deficit. So in 2008, had it not been for converting corn to biofuel, there's no such thing as food deficit. Okay? Kasi at that time, 53 million tons lang ang deficit natin. But the corn for ethanol being processed is about 100 million tons. 100 million tons. So, ano ang point? Economic growth is driving the driving force. An economist tried to compute that for every increase of 0.1 increase in world GDP, it leads to final increase in energy demand of about 0.2%. So yun ang reality. Habang dumadami yung mga tao, dumadami rin yung wants nila. So, ito yung reality. China and India, 40% of world population, but US, less than 5% of world population, but they consume 28% of all oil. They have 280 million of the 850 million cars, 2008. They're predicting that by 2020, there will be 550 million middle-class Chinese. At the rate they are getting rich, excluding the Indians. So, including the Indians, if there will be 30% Indians who will become middle class by 2020, we will have something like 1 billion additional middle class. If all of them will have their own cars, okay, close to 2 billion na. Saan kukuhanin na ito ang kanilang ipapakain sa kanilang mga kotse, no? Including the Filipinos, no? We are now 100 billion. At the rate Filipinos are improving also their income, the OFWs, okay? So, saan natin dadalhin yung mga sasakyan na yan? Anong daan pa kaya? And, of course, what causes the high oil price relief this year, no? So, as I was mentioning a while ago, it is due to the U.S. horizontal drilling and fracking technology, shale oil. And because of the economic slowdown in developed economies, so it slowed down, it reduced the usage of oil. Of course, marami pa rin kasing electricity is being used, ginagamitan ng oil. Okay? Many are shifting to renewable, solar, as well as wind. So this reduce usage. So hopefully at the end, mag-shift na rin tayo sa solar. I'm about 80% solarized in the house already. Oil price forecast, a return to $150. I don't know if this is right by 2016, 2020. Basis, U.S. oil production will peak in 2016, next year. And there is unprecedented jump in the cost of oil from U.S. fields, which rose from 89 barrel in 2011 to $114 a barrel in 2012. So meaning to say, they are selling their oil right now at a loss. Okay? So tingnan natin yung politics ng oil. Russia's oil production will peak in 2018. Okay? So partly the theory is that they're decreasing the price of oil to put down the economy of Russia. Because 3/4 of the economy of Russia is in oil. To put down or to lessen the money of this disease, yung mga rebel group na yun. Of course, those are some analysis. So this is how they're tracking down Russia's production profile on conventional oil. So as you can see, bakit wala dito yung year, no? Nagdi-decrease na rin yung production ng China, ng Russia. I think this is about 2016, 2017. So yun ang point nila. Well, there's a world-class oil deposit discovered near London. This was available in the internet April 10, 2015. So it was only 6 days ago. No? But according to those analyzing it, it's too expensive to produce at the time when weak Brent crude prices are low. So companies are not willing to invest so much. So this discovery is likely to prove significant for the United Kingdom energy industry. So Mike Jakeman mentioned that. Well, no less than the ADB chief mentioned that the era of cheap food is over. And this is because of so many factors. Okay? Look, climate change will hit the major grain-producing countries of the world. China, India, Russia, and some South American countries, Argentina, their soybean, okay? Thailand, Vietnam, okay? Then, even without the problem on oil, then we might have a problem of food supply. Okay? Of course, the triggering point is always population. Okay? Some would not want to admit, but I did an exercise on ideal carrying capacity of the Philippines. The ideal carrying capacity of the Philippines is only 27 million people. CIA did the same calculation that triggered my calculation. CIA has computed roughly 28 to 30 million ideal carrying capacity of the Philippines. So whatever it is, we have exceeded our ideal carrying capacity 2 times. What about the world assessment? That the world has exceeded the ideal carrying capacity 25 times. So whatever it is, medyo with this present consumption pattern and so forth, it will not change. Then we have exceeded already our carrying capacity. According to Pimentel, if the US standard will be adopted, then the world can only carry 2 billion people. So, 7.3 billion na tayo ngayon. So according to Pimentel, if the US standard will be followed, we have exceeded, the world has exceeded already. They have carrying capacity more than 3 times. But Rebel made an estimate using vegetarian diet, then the world can still feed 40 billion people. Then the details will be established. So, this is a summary relational diagram we had before. No? What happens when there is an increase in oil price that was in 2007. Yun, yung shirts or shift to biofuel that will have a competition between food and biofuel crops. So it will decrease food supply, and therefore it will increase food prices. Increase in prices increase the costs of crop production, from crop establishment, tillage, land operation, prices of chemicals, etc. Then it will increase the cost of production. Then it will also increase the prices. By the way, farmers will not implement or will implement cost-cutting measures, particularly on fertilizer, because the fertilizer will be the one to increase so much, especially nitrogen. That will decrease yield. Pag nagsabay yung dalawa, there will be significant reduction in food supply. So, simple law of supply and demand influencing prices, definitely prices will increase. That's why others advocating, hey, why don't we just import? It's so expensive to produce our own rice here in the Philippines. Well, madali sabihin yun. So, what are the realities that we are talking about? The connection between food and oil is systemic, and the prices of both food and fuel have risen and fallen. High and volatile prices of crude oil will also cause food prices to continue to increase. Fuels will almost certainly become less affordable in the near and medium term, making the current highly fuel-dependent agricultural production system less productive and food less affordable. So, on the other end, because of cheap food in the past, ito rin ang nag-propel ng population increase. If you ask the poor people now, they don't want any more many children. Ask them why? Because food price is also high. Hindi na raw nila kaya pakainin. So sinasabi ko, kung nangyari pala tumaas bigla na ang presyo ng pagkain, hindi na dadami yung populasyon. Modern agriculture uses oil products to fuel farm machinery, transport other foods to farm, and to transport farm output to the ultimate consumer. Oil is used as input in agricultural chemicals. Oil price increase put pressure on all these aspects of commercial food system. So, actually tapos na yung lecture ko. Details na lang ito. To give data, supporting data on what I've mentioned. The food and energy nexus. Food is energy, we need it. But energy is required also to produce, process, distribute, prepare, cook food, kahit anong klase ng pagkain, caloric energy source, protein source, and regulatory food items. Of course, fruits, hindi natin niluluto. Okay? Vegetable, but still, we cook our vegetable. Pero konti lang ang energy doon. I love to eat fresh vegetable. Of course, they are organically grown. So, yun, konti lang ang energy dito. Of course, later on, that will determine bakit dapat tayong mag-shift sa vegetarian diet. Okay. Making food ready to eat, the food logistics. No one is studying so much on food logistics dito sa ating university. Gaano ba karami yan? So, energy also required in disposing the food left over. Sayang, packaging materials, plastics. We have the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. The other end, yan ba ay nasusunod? This would describe yung production to processing and distribution of our food system. Preparation, sa pag-apply ng fertilizer, pesticides, and so forth. Of course, nandyan pa rin ang tradition na natin, sabi natin. But, konti na lang ang napoproduce na siguro gano'n. Mga upland areas na lang in the Philippines, our lowland agricultural fields, 90 or 100% of them are already prepared using machines. So yun. Anong nangyari? World grain production increased in the recent decade by as much as 250% prior to oil-based food system through the use of what we call this green revolution agriculture. But the energy used in agriculture increases also 50 to 100 times. So anong ibig sabihin nun? Hindi tayo naging efficient. Yung photosynthesis natin became, or we were able to increase it by investing more energy. So, ano ang ating mga studies na pwedeng masay related to that? Agricultural use of oil in the United States is equivalent to 400 gallons or 1,514 liters. But take note, kung alin ang pinakamarami, 31% in the manufacture of fertilizer, 19% for machinery, transportation 16%, irrigation 13%, grazing livestock 8%, crop drying 5%, pesticide production 5%. By the way, itong data nito ni McLaughlin in 2001 did not include yung processing and distribution. Okay? Primary production lang ito. So later on in our energy audit, we include post-production for rice. So if you look at this summarized data, okay? Rice utilized something like 830 liter diesel oil equivalent per hectare from production, which consumed 32% of the energy bill, but fertilizer accounted for about 47% of the energy consumption. Okay? Post-production, okay, which account for 382 or 46%. But hoeing is about 53% because we hoe our rice in long distance areas already. When we cook rice using electric or LPG, that's about 22%. So, kaya habang kumakain tayo ng rice, mamaya, pag dinner natin, may isip ninyo, oh, hindi nga naglalasa ng langis. Hindi namin puro langis. Why mag-i-increase ang price diretso sa effect sa magka-cut down ng fertilizer use or hindi na ma-afford yung fertilizer or nag-increase na yung fertilizer. Okay? And look at the price ratio of N-urea and palay. In 1970, when the price of oil is still relatively cheap, it's 3.48. Okay? By 2020, it's already 5.16. So, kilogram palay per kilogram urea. Noon, siguro, dahil maganda pa ito pa, etc., may 33. 2010, it's only 17. So, anong ibig sabihin? Mababa na ang relative efficiency ng ating production system. Yun ang medyo delikado. At the time na nag-i-increase yung prices of these inputs, mababa na yung relative efficiency ng ating fertilizer. Because nasira na yung lupa, alam mo na magsasaka yan, bumaba na yung level of organic matter, so on so forth. So, one of my graduate students has developed a detailed Excel estimate of fertilizer for rice, and we are using it also in sugarcane. I will email it to our future director. Anyway, ang driver natin, population. So here we made the pencil pushing in relation to our rice requirement. Tayo ngayon ay 2015. Bakit 104 ang population dito? 101 lang pa lang tayo ngayon. Well, I adopted the CIA